So here's a story that I tried not to think of for 5 years almost. And it was December 2017 at Orange Coast College in my public speaking class. And public speaking has never been a problem for me. One of the short stories in my book, I believe it's called Public Speaking, and I earned the public speaking merit over at Royal Rangers. So I always loved public speaking, and I thought, well, this class is going to be a breeze. Well, kind of. And it taught me valuable communication skills and skills when you are speaking before an audience. So I was on a borderline A. I was like at a high B, and I wasn't really confident on achieving an A. And my professor said that for this last one, if you do it like a class early, then you could get some extra credit. And I thought, well, I'll push myself to do that. And I forget the details other than it was a toast. It was like to toast somebody, like a famous person in history. And I had everything all said, all written. And like the day before or two, I changed everything. And the big day finally arrived. And I was very, very nervous. I kept on going over it and over it again and again, inside, outside. And I just kept on stumbling in my words, and I couldn't remember, even though I knew what I was talking about. It's just, I just couldn't remember everything, and I didn't even get to go through one run through. And so the class started, my professor arrived, and I just shyly got to my seat right there in the front corner, and my professor was like, okay, I think there's a couple of students who wants to give their speech for extra credit. Who are they? And I shyly raised my hand, and I still remember the nervous exhilaration or whatever the feeling was when I raised my hand. I'm like, what is causing me to raise my hand? The extra credit opportunity was causing me to raise my hand. And I think this was the memory where my professor asked, are you ready? And I said, as I'll ever be. But I forget if that was the right speech. But anyway, but regardless, I went up and I gave my professor the final draft of my speech, and there I was before my entire class. And again, I always loved public speaking. It was like the first sentence or the second sentence, and I just spaced out. And, you know, I heard my professor start her stopwatch, and, you know, and again, everything in that speech, I knew frontwards and backwards. And again, the sound of the stopwatch and not being able to go through one run through efficiently, that is, it just kind of got to me. And I slowly turned over to the professor, and we're both like, yeah, do you want to start again? And so I started again, and same thing happened. After the first sentence or two, I just spaced it, and then I was listening to silence. I know that's an oxymoron, but I was listening to silence, and the time was ticking, and everybody was looking at me, and I'm like, oh no. For almost the first time in my life, I started to feel these, like, I blew it feelings, embarrassed feelings. It's like I just lost my grade and everything. I mean, the class, I probably am going to get like a low B or a C now, and it's like I started to get panic feelings. I could feel it in my chest. I mean, it's just like a tightness, queasy feeling and such. Like I just blew it. I just blew the grade. I blew the class and everything. And I slowly turn over to my professor once again, and she's like, "Do you want to do it Tuesday?" I'm like, thank God. Yes, I would like to do it Tuesday. I won't get the extra credit, but I think I'd be better prepared on Tuesday. And guess what? It was. But all weekend long, I was rehearsing that all night, all day and everything, and I finally got it. And people listening might be like, well, that's all? You're just trying to take advantage of an extra credit opportunity and doing the speech in class early? Well, that's only one reason. The second reason I'm about to tell you now. Right before I started, and I gave my speech, my final draft, to my professor. And while my professor was getting everything ready, I took the bold risk and I started to speak out. And I said one thing before I start, and I started to say everything that I planned all weekend to say before I give the speech about do not, even if it's extra credit opportunity, do not seek an extra credit opportunity and give a public speech before a major calculus exam. So that was also in my mind, and this calculus exam was huge. I mean, I had to derive the fundamental theorem of calculus, like part 1, part 2 and such, and actually derive it. And I was actually in math tutoring that morning, just getting like help on like deriving it and more practice and such, and that was all in my head while I was trying to juggle giving a speech and such. So that's kind of the reason why I kind of spaced out and had the most terrifying public speaking experience for a person who loves public speaking. And I'm like, I think I owe people who have a fear of public speaking an apology. Now I know how it feels like. But even though that was almost 5 years ago, I still love public speaking as I always did. And when I said that to the class, everybody started laughing, so it's like, okay, I'm starting to feel more at home now. And I delivered an impeccable speech, I aced the class, and I got 100% on that calculus exam too. But if I remember correctly, that calculus exam took 3 hours. I know one of them did, and I was like afterwards, so